After being humiliated in front of everyone for her appearance, she decides to make a transformation and take revenge on the CEO who once humiliated her. Stay until the end to find out all the details. And before you start, subscribe to the channel and leave your like to follow the best drama stories. Hana is a young woman with a kind heart and an ever-curious gaze. She has never been the type of person to stand out in a crowd. Since she was young, she learned to live in the shadow of others, making the best of the little she had. When she landed a job as an assistant at one of South Korea's largest cosmetics companies, she felt like she was finally achieving something significant, a small step towards fulfilling her dreams. The office, elegant and sophisticated, was a whole new world to her, so far from the modest neighborhood where she lived with her family. Despite her constant efforts, Hana remains discreet and observant, and invisible among the employees. Over time, she realizes she lacks the brand name clothes, confidence, and radiance of her more ambitious colleagues. But that doesn't matter to her. Hana is extremely dedicated and fulfills her duties with zeal, never complaining about the long hours or difficult tasks. Even amidst the whispers and laughter that echo through the office's glass walls, she stands firm. All because, secretly, Hana harbors a silent admiration for one person, Jung Hyun, the company's CEO. Jung Hyun is everything Hana is not. Young, brilliant, and ambitious, he became CEO at only 28, making him somewhat of a living legend in the cosmetics industry. From afar, Hana follows his firm steps through the hallways and the intense conversations he has with the executive team, who always move around him with respect and even a hint of fear. To Hana, Hyun is like an unattainable figure, the embodiment of success. In her heart, she fantasizes about someday being able to approach him, if only to exchange a word. Hana knows she could never attract the attention of someone like Hyun, with her modest appearance and humble background. Still, there's something about him that fascinates her, something she doesn't fully understand. Sometimes, when observing him, she notices a shadow of fatigue in his eyes and wonders if, behind the flawless, calculating exterior, there might be a human side. Maybe even a vulnerable one. But these are thoughts she keeps to herself, a secret her heart alone holds. One day, everything changes. Hana is asked to help organize an important corporate event. It's the first time she has received such a significant responsibility, and though nervous, she dedicates herself completely. She spends nights preparing documents and organizing materials, taking care of every detail. On the day of the event, she dresses as best as she can, a simple outfit she saved up to buy. Her heart races with a mixture of anxiety and hope. She knows Hyun will be there, and the thought of being so close to him, even if only for a moment, fills her with a tension she can hardly control. The event begins, and Hana can barely contain her nerves as she sees Hyun from afar, talking to investors and high-level executives. At a crucial moment, she is called to bring documents to Hyun's table. Her hands tremble slightly, but she takes a deep breath and walks toward him. The sound of her own footsteps seems to echo, and she feels the gazes of some people around her. Subtle smiles, glances that mix curiosity and disdain. As she gets closer, a wave of insecurity overtakes her, but she tries to stay focused. And that's when everything falls apart. In a split second of distraction, Hana stumbles slightly, and the tray of coffee she was carrying tilts dangerously. She tries to recover, but it's too late. The coffee spills, splashing directly onto the papers arranged on Hyun's desk. The dark liquid stains his suit, spreading over important documents. Hana's world stops. Conversations around her come to a halt, and an awkward silence fills the room. Hyun looks at her with a hard, cold expression. In her mind, Hana apologizes, wishing she could disappear, but no words come out. He finally speaks, and his words are like knives. "This is what happens when just anyone is admitted for an important role?" Hyun says, his voice low but perfectly audible. "Such carelessness is unacceptable. Are you aware of how you present yourself? How do you think you can represent our company with such unpreparedness?" His tone is icy, and his words echo in Hana's mind like a punch. Some colleagues murmur, exchanging looks of reproach and even discreet laughs. Hana feels her face burn with shame, and tears threaten to fall. She stands exposed in front of everyone, humiliated by the person she most admired. Unable to endure it any longer, she lowers her head and murmurs an apology. But Hyun has already turned his back, indifferent, and walks away, leaving her alone, staring at the mess. At the end of the event, Hana locks herself in the bathroom. Silent tears stream down her face as she stares at her own reflection in the mirror. That was the last straw. She feels a mix of deep sadness and anger. All her effort, all her dedication was not enough to make him see beyond her simple appearance. Hana leaves the bathroom with her mind filled with a firm decision. She will never again be the object of anyone's scorn, especially not Junghyun's. On her way home, she imagines her future as a different woman, someone he would never dare to underestimate. She thinks about how she could build a new version of herself, a woman who commands respect and captures everyone's attention. Someone capable of facing any challenge, even Junghyun himself. 3 years have passed since that fateful night when Hana was humiliated. The shy, insecure young woman who once felt ashamed of her appearance and her humble background is gone. Now, she is Yuna, a strikingly beautiful and determined woman. Her name and presence are proof of her transformation. Yuna is far from the person Hana once was, both physically and emotionally. With a sophisticated appearance and an impressive resume, she has become a successful entrepreneur and a respected influencer in the fashion and cosmetics industry. Yuna looks into the mirror, observing the reflection she has built over years of hard work, study, and confidence. She has learned to value her own image and mastered the tricks and strategies of the market in which she now thrives. Between photo shoots and gala events, she has earned the respect of many, though her success was built on long nights of relentless dedication. Yet, one goal still burns brightly in her mind. She didn't just rebuild her image and career, she has also prepared herself for an inevitable confrontation with her past, and with the person who once scorned her. Finally, the moment she's been waiting for arrives when she's invited to a major industry event. Ironically, it's hosted by the very company she once worked for, where Hyun is still CEO. Yuna's heart races when she sees the company's name on the invitation, but at the same time, she feels a sense of control over herself that she never had before. She decides to accept the invitation, not just to make an appearance, but to confront her past, and especially Hyun. Her plan is clear in her mind. This will be her first step toward revenge. On the night of the event, Yuna prepares meticulously. She wears a long black dress that highlights her elegance, paired with delicate jewelry and bold makeup, all carefully chosen to exude confidence and mystery. As soon as she enters the luxurious hall, she attracts immediate attention. Guests whisper, captivated by the presence of this woman who seems to command the room. As she strides confidently across the hall, she feels empowered. From a distance, she spots Hyun. He's surrounded by executives and shareholders, just like before. But now he seems more mature, with a hint of weariness in his gaze. Yuna notices he has changed, yet none of this dampens her resolve. Her presence seems magnetic, and Hyun raises his eyes toward her. For a brief second, he watches her, intrigued and visibly captivated. Yuna gives him an enigmatic smile. He has no idea he's standing before the very woman he once dismissed as a mere assistant. The first eye contact between them is electrifying. Hyun can't resist and approaches her, drawn to the aura Yuna exudes. When he reaches her, his words are polite, but his tone carries a certain curiosity. "Good evening, miss?" he asks, clearly trying to gather more information. Yuna smiles calmly, maintaining an air of mystery, and responds with a controlled, smooth voice. "Yuna, it's a pleasure to meet you, CEO Young." Hyun extends his hand for a handshake, and Yuna, keeping the slightest tremor of nervousness in check, shakes his hand firmly. In that touch, she feels her heart still hold remnants of the past. It beats faster, reminding her of the quiet admiration she once felt for him. But she quickly refocuses. This is not Hana. Now, she is Yuna, the woman who has come back to change her own story and rewrite the ending she deserves. Throughout the evening, Hyun watches her from afar, clearly intrigued by this woman who carries an irresistible charisma. At times, Yuna pretends not to notice, staying in her role as an independent, confident, and unattainable woman. She is in control, finally experiencing the power of being on the other side, a place where there are no insecurities or humiliations. At the end of the event, Hyun approaches her again, this time intent on getting to know more about this mysterious woman who has captivated him so intensely. Without revealing any details of her past, Yuna keeps the conversation light and intriguing, always maintaining a strategic distance. It's always nice to see new faces around here, especially ones as memorable as yours, he comments with a subtle hint of charm. Yuna simply smiles and responds with a serenity that hides her true intentions. Well, not all new faces are truly new, CEO Young. Sometimes they're just seen differently, she says, not looking directly at him but with a tone that leaves Hyun unsettled. Her remark ignites a spark of curiosity in him. Hyun tries to extend the conversation, but Yuna keeps him at arm's length. She decides to say goodbye, leaving him intrigued and eager for another chance. Her sudden departure is calculated, a rehearsed move to keep him interested and slightly frustrated. As she leaves the event, Yuna feels the thrill of her first victory. She managed to capture Hyun's attention without yielding to his charm or feeling intimidated. On her way home, Yuna reflects on the evening and feels that she is finally one step closer to her goal. She now realizes that this journey of transformation was more than just a change in appearance or status. It was a complete metamorphosis, one where she became the master of herself and her story. Now, more than ever, Yuna knows she is ready to face Jung Hyun in any situation. Her true revenge is only beginning. Now that her reunion with Hyun has resurfaced both emotions and old wounds, Yuna feels an urgent need to proceed with her plan for revenge. For years, she had prepared herself for this moment, with every detail strategically planned. In her mind, every move needs to be precise, calculated to make him feel the way she once did, though gradually. To achieve this, she knows she must get even closer. Yuna realizes that her success will depend on the perfect combination of mystery, charm, and intelligence. After the event, Hyun, intrigued by Yuna's aura, finds himself unable to forget her. He feels an inexplicable attraction to this woman who entered his life so unexpectedly and managed to unsettle him with such ease. On the other hand, Yuna is fully aware of the fascination she exerts over him, and she seizes this chance to initiate the next step in her plan, to establish a professional friendship with Hyun and delve deeper into his life and business. This, however, requires a bold new move. Yuna arranges a direct meeting with him to propose a potential partnership between her emerging brand and Hyun's company. Her line of cosmetics, which combines natural ingredients with high-quality products, has secured a solid place in the market, and she is now ready to ally herself with one of the industry's biggest players. The meeting is scheduled in one of the luxurious conference rooms of Hyun's company, and upon entering, Yuna notices his reaction to seeing her. He clearly didn't expect to meet her again so soon, and the mix of surprise and interest in his gaze reassures Yuna that she is on the right path. During the meeting, she maintains a professional tone but exudes self-confidence, putting forward innovative proposals. The conversation flows, and Hyun begins to see Yuna not only as a captivating woman, but also as a savvy business partner. He starts to recognize her as a potential strategic ally, yet his personal interest seems as strong as his professional one. At one point, he risks a somewhat disguised compliment. "It's impressive to see someone so young and already so successful, Yuna. You seem to have a clear vision of everything you do." She keeps a restrained smile, noting how he tries to probe her without seeming overly curious. Her response, however, is cryptic. "Clarity comes with time, and the right experiences, CEO Young. Not everyone starts out this way," she says, casting him a look that causes him to question his own past and the times he was harsh with those around him. By the end of the meeting, Hyun accepts her proposal, bringing Yuna even closer to her target. The following weeks are marked by frequent meetings between them to discuss details of the collaboration. Each meeting provides a new opportunity for Yuna to use her charm strategically while planting subtle seeds of doubt and insecurity in Hyun. She begins to offer subtle and strategic praise for rival companies, hinting that her partnership with Hyun's company was a practical decision rather than a personal preference. These seemingly innocent remarks provoke in him a growing need to win her approval. During one of these meetings, while complimenting him on the company's impressive marketing strategy, she casually comments, "I imagine the CEO must be an inspiring leader. I've heard that the management team is highly competitive. I suppose it was quite a battle to get where you are." The comment hits Hyun like an unpleasant reminder. He has lost many friends and faced mistrust throughout his journey because of his rigid approach, something he never admits to. But Yuna can perceive by observing his reactions. Even so, he tries to brush it off and responds with a forced smile. As their relationship evolves, Hyun finds himself increasingly vulnerable and drawn to Yuna. At one point, he decides to invite her to dinner outside of a work setting, under the pretext of celebrating the start of a successful partnership. For him, this is the perfect excuse to have a more relaxed personal moment with Yuna. However, what Hyun doesn't know is that this dinner is part of her calculated plan, marking a new phase in her revenge. At the elegant restaurant, Hyun greets her with a relaxed expression, something he rarely shows in a work environment. The initial conversation is light and full of smiles, and Hyun reveals a side of himself that few people get to see, attempting to impress her. He opens up a bit, sharing stories from his youth and how he was always determined to succeed in the industry. Yuna listens attentively, but inside, she feels a mix of emotions. She acknowledges his discipline and ambition, but also notes his vulnerability and desire for validation, qualities he tries hard to hide. Midway through the conversation, Yuna decides to strike her next blow. She casually mentions that some people find him intimidating, referencing comments she's heard from other professionals. Hearing this, Hyun looks visibly uncomfortable, though he tries to maintain his composure. She offers a gentle smile and says, "Sometimes people have the wrong image of us. They think we're cold, distant, when in reality it's just a facade, isn't it?" Hyun falls silent, surprised by the precision of her words. This comment leaves him unsettled, as if Yuna has seen right through him. For the first time, he finds himself revealing a glimpse of his insecurities. Sometimes it's hard to find someone who truly understands what we go through or what made us become who we are, he admits, somewhat reluctantly. This is the moment Yuna has been waiting for. She observes him, feeling a mix of satisfaction and a hint of compassion. But she quickly dismisses this feeling, remembering all the painful, sleepless nights she endured after his scorn. Her plan must proceed. She then places her hand over his as if offering support and replies, "We all have our reasons. But believe me, in time, we learn to handle things differently. And sometimes people just need to look beyond appearances to understand who we truly are." Hyun is captivated, feeling that he has finally found someone capable of understanding him, someone who may see the truth beneath the hard shell he has built. He doesn't realize that every word, every gesture from Yuna was calculated to make him lower his defenses, to make him crave her validation. At the end of the dinner, Yuna leaves him with a promise to continue what they started. When he suggests seeing her again, she simply smiles and says that, if fate allows, they'll meet again. Yuna leaves, leaving him intrigued and more attracted than ever. On her way home, she feels satisfied, aware that her plan is working. Yet, inside, a subtle doubt begins to arise. With every encounter, she discovers more of Hyun's human side, the person she perhaps never knew, and feels a hint of uncertainty. But she quickly pushes these thoughts away. This is the price he will pay for the humiliation he caused her in the past. In the meetings that follow the business trip, the connection between Yuna and Hyun intensifies, and the emotional walls he built over the years begin to crumble, even though he hardly realizes it. For Yuna, getting closer to Hyun is a mix of satisfaction and unease. Her plan continues as she envisioned, but at the same time, a part of her starts to notice vulnerabilities she never imagined in the cold and ruthless CEO who once humiliated her. As she progresses, Yuna realizes that Hyun isn't as invincible as he seems. One day, Hyun invites her on a business trip. It's a rare opportunity, one he only offers to those he trusts, and Yuna knows this is a sign that he's completely enmeshed in her plan. They travel to a conference in Busan, where Yuna feels she'll be able to strengthen their bond and uncover more about him. During the trip, their conversations become more informal, and Hyun starts sharing fragments of his life story with her. After a long meeting with local executives, they decide to have dinner at a seaside restaurant, away from the prying eyes of colleagues and competitors. There, under soft lighting and the sound of waves, Hyun, visibly more relaxed, shares more than Yuna ever expected. He talks about his childhood, something he never mentions publicly. He explains that he grew up under intense pressure from a controlling father obsessed with success. From an early age, he had to learn to be strong, to hide his emotions, and to fight for recognition, with no room for weakness. Yuna listens, but her feelings of revenge are mixed with a strange compassion. For the first time, she sees Hyun not just as the arrogant CEO, but as someone who bears his own scars. She remembers herself, how she also had to be strong and rebuild her own image after the humiliation she suffered. Although he hasn't realized who she is, Hyun reveals a side that she never imagined existed. After dinner, they walk along the beach, and Hyun seems lost in thought. Yuna seizes the moment to probe further. Sometimes we build walls to protect ourselves, but they end up isolating us even more, don't you think? Hyun stops walking and looks at her, intrigued. It's as if Yuna can see right through him, and this perception unsettles him. I think we don't have a choice, Yuna. When you need to be strong, walls are the only thing that keeps you steady. He pauses, looking out over the sea. I've never had anyone I could trust, someone I could show my true self to. People always expect me to be a leader, someone flawless. Hyun's confession shakes Yuna. She can feel the weight he carries, of always having to be someone unbreakable, of hiding his vulnerabilities to maintain his position of power. For the first time, she sees a part of Hyun that resembles her, a person who, for different reasons, had to harden their heart. But she quickly recalls her promise of revenge, remembering the pain he caused her years ago. The next morning, back at work, they attend the conference with a group of investors. During the presentation, Yuna observes Hyun's controlled demeanor, his serious and determined expression. He's completely focused, showing no hint of the vulnerable side he had revealed the night before. It's as if that conversation on the beach had been just a momentary lapse, something he quickly locked back inside. But Yuna knows she is starting to penetrate Hyun's emotional barriers. At the end of the day, they return to the hotel, and Yuna notices the fatigue in his face. The image of the impeccable, invulnerable CEO begins to fade, revealing a man who is tired and, in some ways, lonely. In a rare moment of openness while they are in the hotel lobby, Yuna dares to ask, "Don't you get tired of always having to be perfect?" Hyun offers a bitter smile, as if the question touches a deep wound. Perfection is the price you pay to survive in this world, Yuna. Do you think I got here by just being myself? He pauses, watching her. But you seem different. Strong, but in a lighter way. How do you manage? The question surprises her, leaving her momentarily speechless. For the first time, she realizes that in some ways, she has achieved what Hyun so desperately craves, the ability to be respected and admired without having to wear the mask he does. She wants to say that, ironically, he was the reason for her strength, but she holds back. Instead, she responds indirectly. I think I learned to turn experiences into lessons, to become the person I needed to be for myself. The words are truthful, but ambiguous enough to keep her secret safe. Hyun seems thoughtful, as if trying to understand something deeper about Yuna. That night, Yuna reflects on everything she has learned. With each new revelation, her plan for revenge grows more complicated. She begins to question whether she can continue, as she realizes that behind Hyun's authoritative figure, there's a wounded soul. She sees that his arrogance and coldness are merely reflections of his fear of being hurt again. Her determination to seek revenge wavers, but Yuna regains her resolve by remembering the cruel words and humiliation he once inflicted on her. On the last day of the trip before returning to Seoul, Yuna and Hyun share a quiet coffee together. He seems more relaxed, and between smiles, he tells her a story from his childhood. For the first time, Yuna sees Hyun genuinely smiling, and it affects her in an unexpected way. He is so close to her, both physically and emotionally, that her anger gives way to empathy, something she tries to suppress. Back in Seoul, Yuna feels conflicted. With each encounter, Hyun's barriers fall a little more, and she sees in him a more complex person than the unfeeling CEO she remembered. Despite her internal confusion, Yuna decides to remain firm. She recalls the solitary nights when she vowed revenge and how she built everything she is now to be seen and respected, never again to feel like the girl he once humiliated. However, Hyun's barriers are breaking down, and she knows she is walking a fine line between her plan for revenge and the possibility of discovering new feelings. With each new opening he offers, Yuna feels reality pulling her away from the idealized plan. She wonders if she will be able to continue with the same determination or if she will be forced to confront her own emotions, a battle that is becoming unavoidable. But for now, Yuna decides to keep her facade. She is determined to push forward, regardless of the consequences. After all, she has invested everything she is and has to get here, and Young Hyun still needs to face the truth of his past. In the days following the business trip, the tension between Yuna and Hyun intensifies in an almost palpable way. What once seemed like a calculated game begins to transform into something Yuna hadn't planned, a genuine connection. Although her revenge plan remains firm in her mind, she tries to remind herself of every cruel word he spoke in the past, of the humiliations and insecurities she endured because of him. Yet, ironically, as he opens up to her, those echoes from the past start to lose their power. Yuna finds herself face to face with a Hyun who is much more human than the arrogant figure she once remembered. During one of their meetings to discuss the ongoing partnership between their companies, Hyun suggests dinner at a quiet restaurant, away from the prying eyes of Seoul's high society. The atmosphere is intimate, and Hyun's tone is softer, almost relaxed. Known for being guarded and in control, he now seems more comfortable around Yuna than he does with anyone else. He laughs at her jokes and listens intently as she talks about her journey to becoming self-confident and independent, revealing some truths about the struggles she faced along the way. Listening to her, Hyun finds himself more captivated by her than ever. For him, Yuna is unlike any woman he has met. Strong, independent, and mysterious. Someone who seems to understand each side of him, even the ones he himself prefers to hide. His admiring gaze and genuine attention affect Yuna, gradually breaking down the emotional walls she had built. In the middle of their conversation, Hyun says something that catches her off guard. "You know, Yuna, you're one of the few people I feel I can be myself around. It's strange, but sometimes it feels like I've known you for a long time." Yuna falls silent, surprised by his confession. Her heart races and she feels a wave of conflicting emotions. She knows that Hyun is truly opening up to her, and this makes her question how far she is willing to go with her plan. In that moment, she realizes that the line between her revenge and an unexpected feeling is becoming increasingly blurred. Later that evening, as they say goodbye outside the restaurant, Hyun hesitates, as if he has something more to say. Yuna watches him, sensing that something important is about to happen. He finally takes a step forward and gently embraces her, a gesture that catches her off guard. His touch is warm and sincere, and Yuna feels her calculated coldness starting to crumble. When he pulls away, his expression reveals that the moment was as unexpected for him as it was for her. "Good night, Yuna," he says softly, with an expression she has never seen before, a mix of vulnerability and hope. At home, Yuna lies awake, trying to process her feelings. She realizes that the emotions she had buried for so long, anger, bitterness, the thirst for revenge, are now mixed with something she hadn't expected. Attraction and perhaps a genuine admiration for the man Hyun has shown himself to be. She realizes that he is no longer just the person who hurt her, but someone who, like her, carries his own traumas and faces his own internal struggles. For the first time, she begins to wonder if she can truly go through with her plan. The next day, Hyun surprises her with an invitation to spend a day together away from work. He suggests a peaceful outing to a park, away from the pressures of the city and their responsibilities. Despite her hesitation, Yuna accepts the invitation. They spend the day together, strolling among the trees and talking about personal topics without the pressure to be perfect. Hyun shares his love of music, something she never imagined, and even reveals his passion for playing the piano. At one point, as they walk side by side, Yoona finds herself smiling genuinely, completely forgetting why she first got close to him. They sit together on a park bench, and in an impulsive gesture, Hyun takes her hand, intertwining his fingers with hers. The simple yet meaningful gesture disarms her. They exchange a look, and in the silence between them, feelings emerge that reveal the depth of what's developing. Hyun then does something unexpected. He openly shares how, since meeting Yoona, he has begun to reevaluate who he is and what he truly wants. He admits that, upon meeting her, he realized how superficial and lonely his life has been, and how he longs for someone with whom he can share his true self. With you, Yoona, I feel like I don't have to pretend to be someone else. I know I can seem cold and distant to the rest of the world, but I don't want to be that way with you. These words completely disarm Yoona. She feels every trace of anger she had held on to begin to fade. For a moment, she is simply a woman moved by an honest, heartfelt confession. The internal conflict between her need for revenge and the affection she begins to feel for him makes her realize that she can no longer see him only as the man who once hurt her. In the following days, Yoona starts to realize that, without even noticing, she has allowed herself to fall for Hyun. At the same time, she feels torn and weighed down by guilt. She remembers the plan she held on to for so long, a plan that now feels more like a burden than a mission. Her desire for revenge no longer holds the same meaning. Instead, she feels vulnerable and fearful, dreading that revealing the truth will make him walk away forever. One evening, Hyun invites her for a special night. He takes her to a private concert hall where he plays the piano for her, something he has never done for anyone. The music is soft yet intense, filled with emotion, and Yoona feels each note as though it's a silent declaration. Hyun's face lights up as he plays, showing a part of him that Yoona has never seen, a man capable of feeling and expressing true vulnerability. After the performance, he approaches Yoona, still under the spell of the music, and kisses her. The kiss is deep, full of emotions that neither of them can hide anymore. She feels herself finally falling into a trap, but not the one she had planned. By giving in to this moment of passion, Yoona realizes that revenge has lost its meaning. She realizes that in her attempt to make him suffer, she ended up falling in love with the man he truly is, not the image she had held of him in her heart. When they return home that night, Yoona is confused. In her heart, she knows there's no turning back. She is in love with Hyun, and this unexpected love has dissolved her thirst for revenge. Yet, the uncertainty and fear that he'll discover the truth torment her. She knows she can't hide her identity forever, but she's terrified that the revelation will destroy everything they have built together. The truth is on the verge of being revealed, and Yoona realizes that her greatest struggle is no longer between the past and the present, but between genuine love and the fear of losing the person she loves most. She now stands at a crossroads. Continuing to hide her identity means living a lie, but revealing it could end the feelings that finally brought her back to life. Yoona feels the weight of the truth closing in, like an unavoidable storm. Each moment with Hyun grows more intense, yet she lives in constant turmoil. With every encounter, her love for him deepens, but so does her fear of the disappointment and heartbreak he might feel if he discovers who she really is. She knows it's time to be honest, but she can't gather the courage to face what it might mean for them. One night, after a long day at work, Hyun invites her to his home. The space is warm and reveals a more personal side of him, a home that reflects the vulnerability Yoona has discovered within his heart. They share a quiet dinner, full of warm gazes and sincere smiles. Yoona feels that it's now or never. Hyun senses something different about her and gently asks, "Yoona, are you okay? You seem distant." Yoona takes a deep breath and decides the time has come to reveal the truth. She looks into his eyes, trying to summon the courage for what she has to say. "Hyun, I have something to tell you. Something I've never shared before," she says, her voice trembling but resolved. "My real name isn't Yoona. I used to be someone else. Someone you knew a long time ago. Hyun watches her, confused and apprehensive, but allows her to continue. He's clearly trying to understand what she means, his gaze both anxious and tense. 3 years ago, I was an assistant at your company, she continues, feeling the weight of each word and the impact they will have. My name was Hana, and one day, you humiliated me in front of everyone, something that affected me deeply. I left the company with a broken heart, and from that day, I promised myself that I would come back someday to show you who I could truly become, to make you feel what I felt. Hyun's face transforms, a mix of shock and pain. He steps back slightly, as if struck. His expression closes off and he looks away, trying to process what he just heard. The silence between them is devastating. Hana, he whispers, almost as if talking to himself. I never imagined you could be... His voice falters, and he shakes his head, stunned. Was all of this just revenge, then? Yuna feels tears welling up, but she remains composed enough to explain. At first, yes. I came back to show you that you were wrong, that you couldn't underestimate me. I wanted you to feel the pain you caused me. But over time... She pauses, feeling her heart tighten. Over time, I saw who you really are. I realized you weren't just the man who hurt me, but someone who carries his own pain. I started to truly see you, to know you, and... Yuna swallows hard. I fell in love with you, Hyun. The revenge lost its meaning. Hyun's gaze reveals a blend of anger and hurt. He steps back, his expression hardening. So all this, every moment we spent together, everything I felt for you, it was all a lie? Yuna shakes her head, desperate for him to understand. It wasn't a lie. At first, yes, I intended to punish you. But everything changed, Hyun. With every moment I spent with you, I let go of that bitterness and found something real. What I feel for you now is genuine. I never expected this to happen, but I love you. Hyun looks at her, visibly torn. He lowers his gaze, struggling to make sense of his thoughts. Part of him wants to believe her words, but another part feels wounded, unable to ignore the fact that she entered his life with the intention of revenge. In a moment of pain, he speaks. I don't know if I can forgive you, Yuna, or Hana, or whoever you are. Those words cut Yuna deeply, and she feels tears slipping down her face. She knew that taking this risk would be hard, but the reality is more painful than she imagined. She turns to leave, unsure if she'll ever see Hyun again. At the door, she glances back at him one last time. I'm so sorry, Hyun. I'm sorry for everything. And with that, she leaves, leaving him alone, immersed in his own pain. In the days that follow, Hyun keeps his distance, trying to process the whirlwind of emotions he feels. He's overwhelmed by anger, hurt, and regret, but he also feels Yuna's absence deeply. He recalls the moments they shared, the laughter, the heartfelt conversations, and realizes that, despite the painful revelation, the love he felt for her was real. He reflects on his own behavior and realizes the impact his arrogance and coldness have had on others, particularly on her. He begins to question how much of that led to who she became. Meanwhile, Yuna tries to move forward, though she is devastated. She never anticipated falling in love, and now that everything is over, she feels empty. The transformation that made her Yuna brought her success and confidence. But losing Hyun makes her realize that her greatest accomplishment feels incomplete. A week later, Hyun reaches out to her. They meet in a park where they once walked and opened up to each other for the first time. He seems hesitant but determined to say what's been on his mind all these days. Yuna, Hana, he begins, taking a deep breath. I've thought a lot about everything. About what you did and about what I did that led you to this. The truth is, I was arrogant and I hurt people without realizing it. And you were one of the biggest victims of that. He pauses, looking at her sincerely. I won't lie. What you did still hurts, but I also understand that it doesn't erase what we felt. Yuna watches him, hope lighting up in her eyes. I've done a lot of thinking too, Hyun. I was wrong to approach you with revenge in mind, but what happened between us was real. And if I could, I'd do it all over again, without the revenge. Hyun nods slightly, and a bittersweet smile crosses his face. He takes a step toward her and hesitantly holds her hands. Then maybe we can try again. No lies, no schemes, just us. She smiles, overcome with emotion, feeling the weight of past hurts dissolve. They step closer, and when he pulls her into an embrace, they both know that the past has finally been left behind. The revenge, the pride, and the fear are gone, leaving only the genuine love they've built together. From that moment on, they decide to start over, with all their scars, but with a mutual understanding and acceptance. Now, they are two people who see and accept each other truly, ready to build a love based on truth and forgiveness. What did you think of this story? Can revenge and love really coexist? If you were in her shoes, would you hide your past or reveal everything, risking losing the one you love? Share your opinion in the comments. We want to know what you would do in a situation like this. And if this plot touched you, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell to follow the best drama stories. Come experience every emotion with us.